I guess it's quite a current film. It's exploring the root cause of anxiety and pretty much any sort of psychological disorder. Rather than looking at the symptoms and trying to fix the symptoms, it's kind of looking at where is this coming from. And it follows a guy, a real man called James, who's he's struggled with anxiety most of his life, even though he has everything. Even though a cliche, but a cliche is because it happens so often. So yeah, we followed him for 3 years, and we found some pretty cool answers.
And how did you hear about James?
He's a good friend of mine.
Right.
Yeah, so we'd known each other for probably about 4 or 5 years up until that point. Mm-hmm. Worked on a couple of short films together. He produced a couple of short things for me, and then we just spoke about doing something on a bigger form for a while. And that was Chasing the Present.
James puts an awful lot of himself into the film. Obviously, he's coping. He's not shy in any way about talking about his anxiety, how he feels. And I was really impressed with how, even towards the end of the film, he is very honest about the fact that this is still a journey that he's on. Was he comfortable with you showing all of that journey? How was he hesitant at all to not put things on screen? How did it work?
I mean, he was pretty good. Pretty good, and the James that you would have met, prior to the film was a very different James to the James today. Before the film, James was like quite closed and a bit quiet, and he wouldn't really talk about these types of things. So it was a big dive for him to do it, and he was open. Like from the beginning, we had a conversation about it. Like, what is it that's going to make this film? What will make this film good? I don't have a good word for it, but and the main thing was like that we just honest the whole way through it, and to just like, if you are feeling something, talk about it, because that's the most important, I guess one of the most important things that we have to do at this point, like, not just suppress and hold it back and not express yourself. So he tried his hardest to do that on camera.
Okay.
And yeah, he did a really good job. And we know each other really well, so it was like having a friend in the room with you rather than having some random person.
One thing that I found very interesting about it, when I was watching it, I presumed that James was directing it because it felt like such a personal story. And when the credits rolled and I saw your note, I was like, oh wow, so that's an incredible job, first of all. But
yeah, thank you.
How difficult was it for you to capture that, or was it easy?
It was, I guess, I mean, it was the whole process was pretty, it was like a natural sort of process where we kind of we're just rolling with it a lot of the time. It was for part of it was pretty difficult because it's such a complicated story.
Yeah.
And also the structure, with it being non-linear as well in a documentary, it's also complicated. But to actually tell that specific story was a little bit complex.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was that the question?
Yes,
was
yeah.
it challenging to do it? Yeah, it was challenging, but at the same time, it kind of seemed to have its own life, where things just seemed to unfold pretty naturally for us. So the film that it was by the end of it was not the film that we went in to make in the first place, because we shot for 6 months with no idea what we were going to do, and then basically took a year off, and where I sat with the footage and went through a lot of it, edited bits and pieces, trying to understand what it was that we'd just done, because it was a lot of it was so deep and life-changing. So that year away was kind of integrating the first 6 months to try and understand what the message is, and then we went out for another 4 or 5 months to then go and actually make the film that came out of that year of integration, basically. So it was like a combination of, like, basically I would come up with structural sort of ideas and questions, and then we would select different people for James to talk to, and then kind of give him an idea of who this person is, but not really give anything to him. So he'd be figuring it out in the moment.
Right, okay.
So it was for him for an hour and a half to just like basically try and understand why we chose this person.
Okay.
And come into realization, come into his own realizations from the conversations that we actually also came into when researching those characters.
Yeah.
So everything that's happening is just kind of like really sort of in the moment.
That's a really interesting way of working.
Yeah, it was good.
What would you hope the reaction to the film is tonight?
I mean, no expectations. I think it's the sort of film that it will either relate to or it won't. Okay. And I think for some people maybe if they watch this film at the right time in their life, it can be really impactful. And if it's not the right time, it could also go over your head.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah, no expectations really. It's just got to do whatever it needs to do.